pushed over to Facebook.
All right. Okay, we'll give everybody a second here to join in as we prepare to sit and talk with our guest from the Pat Tillman Foundation. Looking forward to today's discussion, and we'll just give people about another few seconds to join in. All right, that's a Empowerment and Transition program at the Air Force Wounded Warrior program. What I do is try to help the wounded, ill, and injured airmen and their caregivers as they prepare to transition out of the military, whether that be through education and employment, or maybe entrepreneurship. But that's what we're here to do. So thank you for joining us today on our Facebook Live, and I look forward to our guest today. Next slide. All right, stay connected. Our EIT program has its own Facebook page you can go to. If you're interested, you go there. We are always posting daily for leads on employment, education resources, things that could make a difference to you if you are, looking to pursue these things when you transition. We also have a LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn and you're looking at any of these opportunities, I suggest that you create one. Come on, like us, follow us, form that network to rely on as you know, because there's a lot of information on there for you as you work on your transition out of the military. So when you get some time, explore these links and explore these programs. All right, AFW2 Social Events. We got a lot coming up Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Meditation myths at noon, improv to improve, which is always very entertaining and funny with BJ. On Thursday at 10, you meet the rest of the EIT team, the Empowerment and Transitions team. We'll be on answering questions, talking about what we're doing regionally, how we're helping warriors, caregivers. There's going to be quite a few who are in the chat right now. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it out there. Also, please identify yourself as an EIT teammate so they know who to ask questions to. We have a caregiver testimony at 2 p.m. on Thursday. It's important to understand the stories that they have, the strength that they can show when they're supporting their warriors as they go through, and the role that a caregiver plays in the recovery, the transition, and just overall life of our wounded warriors. So if you have the time, take it, tune in here, same website, same page, same Facebook, to hear these stories because they're very important, and it can give you some perspective on what they go through. And on Friday, cooking with Malika. I'm hoping it's brisket. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to tuning in to that as well. Today, we have two guests from the Pat Tillman Foundation. Since 2018, the Pat Tillman Foundation has been providing academic scholarships, professional development opportunities, and a network to empower Tillman scholars. These scholars are making a difference in the fields of healthcare, business, public service, STEM, education, and humanities. This is open to active duty service members, veterans, and military spouses. Today, our guest is Chief Executive Officer Dan Futrell, and then we also have 2018 Pat Tillman Scholar, Texas A&M, Lance Bell-Brake. And a little bit about Dan. 2011 Pat Tillman Scholar. It brings 15 years of cross sector experience to the Pat Tillman Foundation, graduate of Gonzaga, our OTC program, where he was a Ranger qualified lead officer, platoon leader, company commander. He was deployed for one of his deployments. He was deployed for 15 months to a 3-2 Stryker Brigade in 2006, 2007, where he was awarded a combat and free badge. Post-military, Dan earned his master's in public policy from Harvard University. I think it's a school out there on the East Coast. Some might have heard of it. Since then, he served 6 years as an elected official on a local school board. He has held executive roles in nonprofits and private companies alike. Dan, thank you very much for joining us. Lance Bell-Brake, 2018 Pat Tillman Scholar. He goes to Texas A&M University, which I'm told by my director is a big deal. He's pursuing dual degrees in meteorology for his bachelor's and ocean science and technology as his master's. Served 13 years of active duty, started out as electronic warfare, avionics, and ended as a special operations weather team member, environmental reconnaissance battlefield airman with 6 deployments. He's currently at NASA's Pathways intern, working at Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. He's working to increase the precision, strength and intensity of tropical storms. There was a lot more to his bio, but it was all science. So I just went with that. So thank you both for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here and to be joining us. And now I just kind of want to talk to that. Am I still sharing my screen, or is it just us now?
I think it's just us.
All right, great, because that's what I was trying to do. It's awesome doing this live and all that goes with it. So if you could, I mean, just so you have a little background on what we do, you know, the Air Force Wounded Warrior Program, we have about 100 to 110 new airmen who enroll in our program each month. Most of these airmen are not going to be able to maintain their career in the military, so they're going to be transitioning out. You know, our program is here to help serve the warrior and the caregiver as they get out of the military. That's why I thought it was a great opportunity to have y'all on and talk about what the foundation does, what it's like to be a Pat Tillman scholar, and just kind of go into a little bit, because we might have some people who would be interested in pursuing it. And we have some really good individuals who leave this program who want to continue to serve and continue to serve their community, who would maybe be a good fit. So with that, I'd like to open it up to Lance or Dan to go a little bit about the mission, and then we'll get into some questions that we have on Facebook Live.
Sure. So for me, as a scholar, the mission of the foundation has really just been to support the passions, the commitment and the service of the scholars, kind of in supporting the vision and the legacy that Pat Tillman has left behind. And there's a lot of detail in the things that Pat Tillman Foundation does, a lot of the resources they support, but definitely the community that the foundation has created, the scholars they have, the things that they're doing, and the network that they've created to support and empower one another has just been phenomenal. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, and if maybe I'll jump in here too. We've been around, as you mentioned, Brad. And first of all, thank you for having us on here. This is a cool opportunity. I know we're all in different places, remote from our homes, and still thriving in this coronavirus environment here. But really appreciate you having us on. The foundation has been around. It was founded literally the month that Pat lost his life in April 2004. And I was part of our third class of Tillman Scholars in 2011. And over the last 15 years, we've been investing in in veterans, service members, and military spouses as they are seeking to engage with their second active service. And that's the language that I use. We're looking for folks who have already served in uniform or in a military family as a spouse, and have a very clear idea of what their next step is ahead of them, what kind of service and what kind of impact that they want to have. And so our role here in that is to first find the veterans and military spouses who can articulate their impact, and then support the hell out of them. And that means through scholarships, through helping folks go through school, undergrad or graduate degrees, and then providing leadership development opportunities so that they continue to grow their impact over their careers. And we're doing that in a community that is ambitious, that is humble, and that is all pushing the same direction to have a positive impact in the world.
That sounds great. And then I mean, you're both scholars, 2011, 2018. And it's like you said, having that drive to still continue to give back and still continue to do great. And I know Lance, we go back a little ways, and so I know the kind of quality of people that you have in this program. If I'm a service member, I'm a wounded warrior who's looking at like, hey, this is something that interests me. I want to continue to my second service, right? As I think you kind of put it. How long in advance? How do I prepare? How long should I start looking like, hey, when can I apply? What do I need to do to put myself in a good position to be a Pat Tillman scholar?
There's probably a logistical way to answer that, and then a philosophical way to answer that. The logistical part is easier. The month of February is the application period. So come February, you should be applying. for the following fall semester and academic year. Right now, we are at the tail end of our selection process that started in February of 2020 for scholars who will be announced next month, who will start school in August, September of this year. That's the logistical side. There are recommendations. There's certain things we ask for. You could find all that stuff on our website, ptf.org. On the maybe more philosophical side, I'll say, it is applicants that are successful in our process are folks who have done some deep introspection on who they are, what their service means to them, and how they want to leverage that experience going forward. And so, there's some work that everybody does to, just develop themselves and to develop others and develop their leadership skills that we're looking for folks to engage with. And that happens both in the military, but also outside of the military and community service opportunities, volunteer opportunities. If there are folks on the call right now who are thinking, oh yeah, maybe I'll apply next February. I bet there's a lot of opportunities right now due to coronavirus for you to volunteer and engage and serve your community. Those kinds of things are powerful signals for us in the application process. I don't know, Lance, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that covers a lot of it. For me specifically, so Texas A&M is one of the partner schools for the foundation. So we have a slightly different application process. I mean, we still submit the same application, but we'll be funneled through A&M first. Kind of be selected by A&M, which I think they have 3 spots that they can pick up to. And then we'll be selected from them, and then we'll go and compete nationwide against the rest of the applicants. So I mean, for A&M specifically, I mean, we have a very large footprint of veterans and resources available that support us. I think there's 1,200 plus something veterans on campus, and then we have tons of resources available. So one of the resources we have is to notify us of upcoming scholarships. Pat Tillman Foundation was, the Pat Tillman Scholarship was one of those, and I found out in, I think, late fall that they would be having the scholarship, the next spring. So we started, I want to say it was right before Christmas, we started basically talking to the Veterans Support Office, going over questionnaires, going over resume, short essays to kind of, pull out that same information that Dan was just talking about, and to kind of get an idea of who they had to select, that coming spring. So we submitted the application, right around the corner in the spring, and then, you get picked from there and meet certain milestones, and then it leads to an interview with the foundation if you make it that far, and then hopefully, I think early summer you find out if you're selected or not.
Yeah, I think the announcement will be June 12th this year.
Awesome. I mean, you're both scholars, you're both in the foundation. How do you explain the camaraderie that comes with this? Maybe the network that that's a big thing that we kind of, try to foot stomp, is, hey, have a network, be involved. When you get out of the military, especially, looking at some of the situations that our warriors and caregivers are in, you go from a community that you love, now you're being told you can't do that anymore. And so they miss that camaraderie, they miss that feeling. I mean, I just looking from the outside in, like, it looks like this is kind of an opportunity to be involved in something, to give back, to have that network and kind of have that camaraderie. Is that something that you would say goes with this?
Oh yeah, extensively. The network. So I mean, the first thing you do when you're selected is you go to the Pat Tillman Leadership Summit, and one of the big part of that, one of the big things that they're definitely trying to connect you with is the other scholars. So you'll arrive there with your class of scholars. You'll be there with previous scholars from other classes, obviously the staff and board members. But one of the main points of that whole event is to connect you with other scholars. So that's your kind of opening, your intro into the organization. So then past that, you're involved in our own social media platform, or I guess professional social media, whatever you want to call it, the Tillman Connect platform, and you're connected on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. But really from there, you start to meet other folks and start seeing their passion, and B, the things that they're involved in. I would describe the organization thus far is really, it's very similar to what we experience on active duty. The family, the network, the people involved, the willingness to support one another, just different things that are going on in life. They're very readily available to do things. I mean, we just did it for Pat's Run, which happened in April. We had a Tillman scholar, lead that out, since we couldn't go there actually down to Arizona to do that fundraiser. He led it out so that we had a Tillman scholar running every hour around the world, and that ended up being pretty wild. And he's also a meteorologist too, so we were able to provide some forecasts for that, which was pretty fun. But we're definitely very involved in one another, the organization, and the stuff that we're doing. Definitely. And Danny, if you want to talk more on that.
Yeah, I would say that the Tillman Scholar community, we now over 12 years have 635 Tillman Scholars across the country. That's our secret sauce. That's what makes this organization special. I'll tell you, I was a 2011 scholar, and I graduated from a graduate program in 2012. And every year thereafter, I would take vacation time from my normal job, break away from my normal life to fly to Chicago and spend 2, 3, 4 days with 150 other Tillman scholars every year. And it's because for me, the group grew to feel like a family. And there are some family members you see only once a year, and it started to feel like that. And everybody's story, you interact a little bit throughout the year at different events or digitally, and then you see them every year. And every time I would walk away from that event, every time I would walk away from spending time with other Tillman scholars, I would feel this significant amount of positive pressure to do something before the next time I saw them the following year. Because all I would hear during those few days, I would hear about Tillman scholars who are working on, meteorology, on film, on starting a startup, on human trafficking, on, data science, on healthcare, on a variety of different things. And all of them were doing really exceptional work. And I would walk away and I'd say, well, shit, what am I going to do between now and next year so that I don't look like a schmuck, when I come back here? And that, there are, scholars that, we've had conversations about this as a group, but about this feeling of positive pressure. That's what I get out of it. Some people call that motivation. And, I would walk away from the group feeling super motivated to do something that was positively impactful. And that's the thing that keeps me coming back over and over and over again. And I suspect that's what keeps a lot of other people coming back, because of this family nature of the Tillman Scholar community, as well as this positive pressure that motivates to do something big. So yeah, I'm really grateful to be a part of this group.
Awesome. And then, just the fact that it's open to the spouses, right? And the military spouses, like, to me, that's a huge thing. And I think that's great, because you have some of them who have so much to contribute to what they're doing. And can you just touch on that a little bit? Just because part of our audience here is, military spouses, military caregivers, right? And so just to touch a little bit on that.
Yeah. So, this organization was founded by Marie Tillman and friends and family of Pat. And there, from day one, there was a special recognition that spouses serve in a very unique way that often goes unrecognized in a variety of ways, whether it be scholarship programs or just the national conversation on what it means to be a veteran. There's a whole group of folks who are spouses, partners to veterans, who go through a really unique set of experiences that I would also call service, that we would also call service. And so, our program acknowledges that by not distinguishing between the two. If you are a spouse, if you are a veteran, and by veteran, that means, you have served and either are continuing to serve or you are no longer serving. You are eligible for our program. And so, if you're, we encourage all spouses to apply. And once folks are in the program and in the community, we don't, it often takes some time to realize that, oh, X person is a spouse and not, didn't serve him or herself. Because that distinction is rather irrelevant, because everybody is impressive in their own way and working on their own stuff.
Awesome. Lance, can you just describe some of the things that you learned through this program? I mean, like through being a scholar. You're obviously working, on NASA right now, but just what can you take from just this whole experience moving forward into your career? Things that help you maybe in school, but just explain how it's helped propel you the way that you're going.
Sure. So I guess some of the biggest pieces has definitely been the mentoring aspect from the foundation. So I mean, there's only one other meteorologist within the Tillman Scholar community right now. That kind of narrows down where I get my specific meteorology advice from. But some of the other folks are at NASA. We think we have 3 or 4. We have 1 astronaut and 2 other, I think, program managers. All those folks combined have been providing, mentorship insight on where to, take the things that I'm trying to do, or really where I want to go with the things I was trying to do. I knew I wanted to end it up at NASA. I knew I wanted to be in meteorology or oceanography to an extent. Where specifically within NASA, I mean, it's a big organization. Where specifically within that I wanted to be, I didn't know. So talking with John, the other meteorologist, I was able to kind of, get an insight on exactly how I wanted to work that out. One of the things we did have my first Tillman Leadership Summit was we had a seminar through LinkedIn. There they just kind of talked about, how to use the platform, and then, some of the ways that you can use it to connect with other folks, which is exactly what I did to reach out to some meteorologists down at the Kennedy Space Center, at some NASA folks down there, and kind of talked with them and looked at some opportunities and ways for me to get from where I was as a student to an internship, which is what I'm currently in now. And that is directly from, starting, being a Tillman Scholar, working through the network of folks that are within the field, getting some ideas on different things that I wanted to do and kind of apply myself to. And then, I've arrived at, being in an internship currently at Marshall Space Flight Center right now. So that to me is probably the biggest thing is the network. The network has been able to, leverage some of the things that I want to do and actually put that forward into things that I am currently doing.
That's great. And then, just what was kind of amplified in the message that I'm seeing on the Facebook chat, like you said, Dan, is do what you can now. As far as like, going out and trying to do good things to help build that package. If this is something that you're interested in. For me, it really looks like an impressive organization, impressive program. And I just think that it's something that, we have so many individuals who I think could be a good fit for this. And so I really appreciate y'all coming in. I don't want to take up too much of your time today, but if there's anything that either one of you, Dan, would like to touch on, or Lance, you'd like to touch on before we wrap this up. But I'm going to make sure that the information that your website gets pushed out there. I'll share this as well on LinkedIn, so our warriors and our caregivers are seeing it. But just anything, just the kind of that we maybe didn't touch on that you'd like to leave us with before we wrap it up.
Yeah, the one thing that I'll say is around continuing to serve. When we for those that haven't read John Krakauer's book about Pat, Where Men Win Glory, would highly encourage you to do that. Pat, and I probably don't need to say this to everybody, but it's worth emphasizing. Pat was a person who really lived his life he was driven by passion. And he, was always trying to do what was right in every situation, and he was deeply curious of other people, and always wanted to learn from others, and never assumed that his way was 100% the right way, and was open-minded. There's a quote that we use often at the foundation about passion, a quote that Pat said about passion really being the driver of life, about it giving energy to all the things that we do in the relationships that we have. For those who are making a transition from the Air Force to the next stage in their life. Any transition is hard, especially hard if you're doing it, after having sustained some injuries while serving. That transition, I would encourage folks, find your tribe as you make that transition, and look for your passions and pursue them to the end of the earth. Because if you do that, and again, edging on a little bit philosophical here, but I think it's important. As people are going through their transition and finding those things that really drive them and for which they feel passion, I think that is going to come across in an application. I think it's also going to just make you feel better. I'll say, for my own part. But as folks are making that transition and looking towards that impact, those are the folks that we're looking for to be a part of our community. So that's pretty important. That's all I have to say.
Sure. So for me, definitely apply. It's a great opportunity, a great program to be a part of. So, stay involved in your community, keep going with your passions, and academic pursuits, keep getting after it. And yeah, definitely apply, please.
All right. Well, I just want to say, thank you both for joining us. Here's the website, snapshot of what it looks like. I want to say thank you for taking this time out to talk about the program, to speak to our warriors, speak to our caregivers. It's just a good opportunity, and I want to take the opportunity because I have you on here, Lance. No one's shocked from our community that you came from, that this is where you'd be, with the drive that you have. I know I'm proud of you. I know your other teammates are proud of you for doing what you've accomplished. Thank you both for continuing to serve, and thank you both for coming on here and being willing to share this with our team. And I really want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate
it.
Absolutely.
You're welcome to stay. I'm just going to clean up a few, but if you're watching, this is where you can go to find out more. So thank you guys very much. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you guys. Take care.
Take care.
All right. If you're watching and you're an Air Force Wounded Warrior, your caregiver, you're like, hey, this sounds like a great program. What's the EIT program? This is where you can go to find out more, get information, register yourself, refer yourself. Just follow this pathway, and then we can start working with you. One of our EIT teammates will reach out to you and try to help you with your transition, help you with the goal that you're trying to reach as you move from the military onto the next path that you choose. All right, this is what I was trying to show earlier, but I was informed through a note that I didn't share my screen, so here's this. Friday, Cooking with Malika, and then Thursday we have 2 great events, starting with Meet the EIT team, and then Caregiver Testimony, which I discussed a little bit earlier. I really suggest that if you can, try to make these events, support the AFW2 program and the people who are putting these on. If you have information you'd like, to reach out to us to help us get your information out to our warriors, our caregivers, please reach out. Here's the information. So thank you very much for your time. Thanks to our guests from the Pat Tillman Foundation for taking the time to join us today. I think it's great information. I hope that some of our warriors, some of our caregivers apply for next year. Thank you for taking your time to join us. Everybody have a good day.